A very good afternoon to you, and welcome to. If you've just joined us, then welcome to the Dayouwinia Country Club. If you've been with us from the morning hours, then it's great to have you back with us. 31 degrees Celsius, that's the temperature in and around these parts, and relative humidity at about 50%. Not too much of a wind draft either, so it's been a fairly pleasant day to start off the events. And well, here we go for it's Song Yoon Hee, who's pretty much been, well, attempting to gain higher ground here. We just had the leaderboard up earlier, and we will, of course, run you by that later on. But for now, time to get right into the thick of things and back into the action. A very interesting day as far as the ladies are concerned. Now here we go with Cho Ah-yeon. She's on par 4. That's really aiming to gain ground with this one and probably try and, well, just keep, well, her score as minimal as possible. She's it's Lee Go-young who's next. So will she be able to get that in? It sails in nice and easy. Well, just stopping shy of well, the hole, but she will get it in to keep an even par on that one. So not a bad year for Lee Go-young. Well, she's had her moments in today's event. Driving that one fairly strong, and you really want to try and, well, just avoid the slopes as much as possible. You do have to, well, pull in as much as you can when you're teeing off. Of course, we did in the morning itself, we had, well, a couple of really fabulous bits of play and some excellent, well, skills put on display. Now here's Ryu Ho Ran. It's par for this one is 4. So it'll be interesting to see how she manages to, well, pull in her weight, and, well, I'd say a tad bit unfortunate there for her. Here's Park Hyun Kyung. Sort of 1 over par, and she's managed to, well, get that in. Just the tip of the hat. So 1 under for this one. I think she's done fairly well, and that's really, well, that smile on her face will say it all. You really want to be able to, well, nail a birdie, and that's exactly what she was able to do. And keeping hers rather even here on the 6th. She's done fairly well too. So, well, every time you do see a smile. So the par here will be 4 for, well, the next, which is the 11th, 345 meters, that's the distance. Here's Lee So-young. Well, aiming for the birdie, and, well, that was just, well, a tad bit close for her, but it looks like she'll have to go in for an even par here. Just a view of the 9th hole. Very clearly, you've got a water hazard there as well. 4 Par set at 361 meters. So 361 yards is what we're looking at, and it's going to be interesting to see how well Cho Ah-yeon does with this one for the 9th hole. Well, able to keep her wits together, but well, not too pleased with that effort, but she will take it. Well, a tad bit closer is always better than a tad bit further. Now here's Yoo Hee-ran. That's a second stroke, 138 meters to the hole. That's where that 2 to 9 iron makes such a big difference. Some golfers just have that amazing control over them. Well, I'd say that's an excellent effort there from her, and she'll be pleased. It's over to Lee So-young. And she's really kept a very, very consistent effort right through this day. Lee So-young, she's 4 under par. Well, so far. So for the 9th hole, the par of course set at 4. Lim Hee-jeong, she's well, 1 under par so far in the contest. That's a second stroke. And just managing to stay clear. I think that's really what needs to be done. You don't want to actually get into the rough at any point of time. Sung Go-yoon. She drives that for the 10th hole. The par set at 4 once again. It's really an effort that she might be just about pleased with, if well, as long as you can steer of those hazards, that of course would just keep you still in the running for the contest. So let's not forget the Dayouwinia Country Club. It's been in existence for the longest period of time. Remember, some of the best hot springs and some of the best mineral water in Korea does come from this area, towards the outskirts of Gyeonggi. And we'll tell you, there's bits and bobs about the course, of course, that really makes for a very rich history. Absolutely delightful effort here. So Cho Ah-yeon, well, she's had a very, very good run so far in the contest. Will be interesting when we do get the points tally up and we do have a look at the scores. Here's Lim Hee-jeong now. She's 1 under par so far, just off the rough or just inside it. She's fairly close. 5.5 meters is the distance. Just about missing out on the birdie there narrowly. It wasn't always going to be the easiest shot, but sometimes you have golfers who can knock in the toughest shots from a distance. Happens in every sport, doesn't it? On to the 10th hole, 125 meters to the target, and that's, well, she's just going to be one step closer. Still got 2 strokes left. One for a birdie. Here's Ryu Run. She'll aim to keep her score even for this hole. Does exceptionally well. So Ryu Horan displaying a very good composure in today's event. She's been calm, she's been collected. Here's Song Go-yeon. Second stroke, she's using the 7-iron, 120 meters. That's a fairly strong effort from her. Park Hyun-kyung with the 7-iron. She's got a distance of 116 meters to cover. She's kept her expressions well, very under wraps here. And here's Lim Hee-jung, who's on her 4th stroke. She'll manage to keep higher, and well, she does that. She'll be delighted with that effort. So it's actually Jo Yun-hyu who was leading the pack with a 9 under par, and as I said earlier, it's been a fairly pleasant day. Not the, well, I'd say not the coolest, 31 degrees Celsius. It can be sweltering, but with humidity at about 50%, it hasn't been that much of a bother. Move on to the 10th hole, 335 meters. So that's how much you really have to drive. It's an interesting one. Because I do believe that, well, there are a few sandbanks in and around the area. A very interesting, well, layout for this. Can be a bit tricky as well. And I only say tricky because of just that sloping incline. Can make a tad bit of a difference. Ryu Hee-jung will drive this for 10. But does look like she was looking for a tad bit more. Big conversation there with the caddy. The strangest conversation when I was a youngster with a friend who was an ardent golfer, and lads like us were just about starting, but he was already playing the circuit in the amateur region, and but it's Cho Ayon who will drive her first one. And a few bits and bobs, of course, that come out of it were when he did mention your caddy is like, we'd always think that your caddy is like your left arm, and he said, well, actually no, your caddy tends to be your right arm. And over the years it just makes so much of sense. It's a very wise statement to make, because everything from strategy to health to consolation, comfort, and even motivation, well, that's really something, isn't it? Here's Lim Hee-jung. Very stylistic in her approach for most part of this day. She's been flamboyant with her shots. That's interesting, as Lee So-young is on her 12th hole. She will get down to her second stroke. Her overall, of course, is 4 under par, well, till now. And that score, of course, still fairly competitive enough. Well, the interesting thing about this course, of course, will tell you a bit of a story as well. There was a lot of work that went into it a long time ago, and we'll tell you about those details today, because it's a very interesting story how the Dayouwinia Country Club came into being. And there was so much of actual labor that went into it, so much of strategy into building this and crafting it into one of the finest courses. Here's Park Hyun-kyung aiming for the birdie. Just fall short of it. She should be able to make up, build the even par, so I don't think it's going to be too worrying for her at this point of time. Don't forget that the Dayouwinia, the KLPGA Dayouwinia MBN Ladies Open will thus bring in some of the finest talents in the sport and puts them on display here, and that's when you really, get to view their skill. And as the best, athletes in this business will tell you, it's never really about how good you are, it's about how good you are on that day. Song Go-yoon will aim for the birdie here. She's on her 10th hole. The par set at 4. That's an overall score of 2 under par. Which, of course, to be fair, is an eagle. And very interesting here, Lee So-young on her 12th. 100 meters to the hole. Par set at 5 here. She's already got a 4 under par, and that's a fairly decent effort. She would have been looking at getting it just a tad bit closer towards the flag, but I think that's interesting because there's so much about preparation that goes, mental preparation more than anything else. And here's Lee So-young, just falling shy by a few inches. And if you ever do take up the sport, or if you already are playing the sport, you very well will know how technical, the competition can get for a particular athlete at a given time. And it's one of the fascinating bits that math is such a big, player in the sport, isn't it, when it comes to, using calculations. And Well, just join that in with a tad bit of physics and you've pretty much got yourself set. Here's Park Hyun Kyung for an even par. This is on a 10th. And she keeps an even score there, so she won't be too worried. So just to look back, this tournament of course is exactly 3 days. We are on day 1 currently, and Park Min-ji of course has been one of the standout athletes in recent times. She's been the top ranked player on the tour for a while now. Won the most money but is ranked 2nd overall. She's won 3 of the last 8 tournaments. Very interestingly, right at the top it's Ryu Hae-ran, who is ruling the roost with 457 points. Park Min-ji of course in 2nd with 392. So sometimes you always wish for that slight gust of air that might aid the process, but Lee So-young, she's still got an overall of a score of 4 under par, so I don't think she's gonna blink too much for that. So just to run you by it again, Ryu Hae-ran still at the top of the game with 457 points in the rankings. It's Cho Ayeon who's up next. Not on the table, but with a stroke. Park Min-ji sitting in 2nd position with 392. Yes, Son Yi-bin. She's on her 9th as well. We'll take the 2nd stroke. Ryu Hae-ran. Definitely very, very highly competitive athlete. And it's over to Sung Go-yoon now. On to her 11th hole as she drives. First one, 345 meters is what we're looking at. Did pack in, well, a good swing on that one. And that will stay put. I think one of the most important bits of course is I'm delighted by this young lady, Lim Hee-jung. 335 meters. And she's put herself into the safe zone. 2 strokes on the bag, 1 for birdie. And it's going to be an interesting turn of events. Of course, we will give you a view of the course layout as well. And just to run you by it, currently it's Jo Yoon-hee who leads the pack, and she's done fairly well to keep herself in good stead. And right there behind, of course, you've got a couple of the others who were fairly strong, but you've got Lee So-young and Jun Yi-sung, who are still very much in contention. But to be precise, it's still going to be a fairly tough contest here, as we get on. Now here's Lee So-young. She's had a fairly interesting event. Let's not forget that Lee So-mi won this event last year, while Park Min-ji claimed it in 2020 and in 2019. So very quickly, once again, just giving you a view of where we stand in today's event. It's Jo Yoon-hee, who's got a 9 under par, Park Bo-kyun with 5 under par, Lee So-mi, who's been fairly strong in today's event. She's, well, currently in that shared second position with a 5 under par. You've also got An Sun-ju and Son Ye-bin, who are also 5 under par. And I think that's going to be an interesting battle between these athletes here. Just running you through our current standings. Yoo Hae-ran, just with a 1 under par. She, of course, is the top ranked athlete getting into this event. It's a beautiful day here in these parts of Gyeonggi. We will get back to the action in just a little bit, so don't go anywhere as the action continues right here at the Daewoo Montworth Country Club in Pocheon. We are coming at you live, based right at the north of Gyeonggi province. It's a fairly good area, very close to the Myeongseong Mountain and near but just off the border, actually, if you ask me. Renowned for those beautiful hot springs and absolutely fantastic mineral water that comes out of this area. Here's Song Go-yeon now, as she is on to her 11th, second stroke there. Well, she's just stepped up, well, her game by a notch. Yoo Hae-ran hasn't been too excited about her, well, performance, and that happens to the best athletes, isn't it? You're always going to be, well, critical of your performance, and you're always going to be critically constructive in a way. Now here's Park Hyun-kyung. She's had a few good moments as well. She's got an even par, 8.4 meters. That's what she's looking at. Had just a fair share of challenges in today's event. Just keeps off the rough. I think she'll be happy about that. It's over to Jo Ah-yeon. 6.5 meters. She goes in for the birdie. And she'll be able to keep it fairly steady. Just tip her hat to that. So 1 under par for this on her 11th hole. Just a fair deal of, well, good things have happened for Lee So Young. She'll be very, very excited with the performance in the event so far, which just drives that, will drive that fairly strong for her attempt. Keep in mind the fact that she's still very much in the contest. We'll tell you a bit about the prize money as well. So that's just a tad bit away from the hole itself, and I think that's just going to be a tad bit of a worry for her. But we move on here to Lim Hee Jong. She manages well to keep fairly steady with that. She's been very consistent with her performance here today. She's been very, well, I think positive, kept a very positive mindset for most part of this day. Park Kyun-hoon, she's got 20.3 meters to the hole. Will attempt well to claim the birdie here. Just a slight look of disappointment on her face. But it's always going to be those days, and I do remember watching, well, the Great Bear once talking, and he said, you know, you could be the finest golfer in the world, but on a given day, you could have the most, well, amateur golfer actually whoop you out of the course. And it's very wise words coming from, well, somebody who was that experienced. And the great Jack Nicklaus always had a few funny words, a few funny anecdotes. Well, that's one of the best bits about golfers, isn't it? You're always going to have a great sense of humor. Driving that with a bit of conviction. She's going to we'll just have a rethink with that effort. So on the 11th, 5 birdies, 66 we're looking at par, 24 bogeys. On the 11th here, 345 meters. View here on. Remember, she's got the skills, she's got the experience. She's powered that through fairly strong. It's over to Son Yee-bin. We'll aim for the birdie. She's been fairly strong here today, fairly strong. She's run up there in the top 5 with, well, some of the strongest, and that really gives you a view of it. She's had a couple of, well, holes under par, and very consistent performer today, Son Hee-bin. Here's Sang-go-yoon. That's for the birdie. The par set at 4 for this. She's on her 3rd stroke. Well, just a little bit more, and that could have made the difference. But I don't think she's going to be too concerned about that, because she's still keeping a fairly even score. But it's really about being able to capture as much as you can a fairly decent effort here. Here's Park Hyun Kyung. Pass that at 4th goes for the 11th, and that's a 4th stroke. And just missing it by a tad bit. I don't think she's going to be. So unfortunately, bogey here for Park Hyun Kyung. She's had a few in today's event. Not too pleased with that. Well, she was so close to actually just keeping an even score there. A good picture of concentration. She does know that she's got to keep her strokes down to a minimal. Looking for that even score. Song Go Yun. She does manage to just hold on, so and that's really what you tend to do when you've got a tad bit of pressure on, or you do know that you're approaching, well, the second half of your first round, and all those points. Well, there can be a bit of redemption sought after in the last 9 holes or in the second half. And that's the interesting bit. That's really the interesting bit. Besides the fact that it always makes it so easy to calculate the scores, well, just that split also definitely giving the athletes a chance to rethink their strategy. Yes, Lim Hee-jong, 144 meters to the hole. She's on her 2nd stroke. The par set at 4. It comes fairly close, and well-deserved applause for her. She's actually enjoyed her game today, and I think that's the key bit of every athlete. Some athletes, of course, do tend to be a lot more intense, a lot more focused. Some athletes tend to be very focused, but of course are so passionate about the sport, or they just really get out there and have a good time. And a good competitive time is the right way to put it. Now Cho Ayeon, she's on her 11th as well. And 38 meters is what we're looking at. I'd say that's an absolutely delightful effort from her. And I think she'll be pleased with that. She'll be absolutely pleased with that. Here's Lee Cho-hyun on her 12th. She's managed to hold herself together. Did have a bogey on the previous effort, but on her 12th, we'll just rectifying the damage. That's always, well, sheer delight when you can, well, change things around a little bit, get back in rhythm, get back into, well, the contest. It's a height of 25 there. Exceptional effort coming in from some of our athletes. So it's an absolutely fascinating course, and you know, one of the courses that really does have, well, a lot that's gone into its construction. Now here the par set at 5 on the 12th. Song Go-yoon.
Okay. Sharp. 다 넓어? 상관없어.
Yuhiron on her third stroke, and that's really the skill of one of the finest golfers in recent times. Well, she's still Queen Bee as far as the rankings are concerned. Of course, the standings today will tell a different story, but well, just has that ability to turn things around. She has that ability to make amends. Well, she's currently 11th in the contest, and I think, well, she's had a few moments where she's had to look back and, well, just think about how that could have gone better. Now, Lee Cho-yun on her 13th. Well, time sure moves on fairly quick, doesn't it? And you think that we start off in the morning hours, and well, that's the beauty of not just the sport but the course as well. When you get so well caught up in it, it's such a wonderful place. I do believe if you've never had the chance to come out here and get a view of not just this area, not just the course, but the area around. And she's really enjoyed her time here, Lim Hee Jung. So she does well once again, and just upgrading for her score. She's overall 2 under par. She's got a double eagle, and I think she's got an eagle, sorry, and she'll be happy about that. So it's really about keeping your consistency until you get to the end of round 1. Choi Young laying for the birdie here, and she's nailed it fairly well. We're very composed on this, so she's backed that up very well. 2 birdies in quick succession. She moves on to her 12th, and that smile says it all. She knows it's a job well done, and the proof in the pudding will just be 2 birdies in the bag. Here's Song Go-yoon, 514 meters is what we're looking at. 288 meters now to the hole on a second stroke. And I think, well, she wasn't too well moved by that effort, but she'll be well happy with it. Now Hyun Se Lin goes next. She's on to the 15th, and that's her first. The par set at just 3, so she's got to keep that drive fairly controlled and fairly distant. Well, absolutely marvelous effort here. Absolutely marvelous effort. Just set herself up for the birdie really well. Just opened up the stance a little bit earlier. Now here's Choi Young. She's on to her 12th. She's kept her poise as well, and she's definitely kept herself well in the running. It's all about being able to, well, just stay in the contest more than anything else. It's about keeping yourself very controlled. So here we are on the 12th, par set at 5. She's on the 3rd stroke, Song. I think just going a bit over, and it's really, well, that incline, that isn't going to be too helpful. But she's been cheery, and I think that's worked extremely well for her. Well, just getting her swing together. Lee Cho Yun, 158 meters to the hole. She's on a second. This is the 13th hole for her, and it's going to be interesting. Well, just opening up her stance a tad bit. She's put herself in contention of a birdie, but keep in mind the fact Pacquiao. She's managed to do well on her effort here. She's building it up nice and easy as well. So over to Hyun Si Lin. But she had a very good drive earlier, so really will be looking to nail it here. She aims for the birdie. Wasn't too much of an ask for her, and she knows that, Hyun Si Lin. So she's done fairly well. Kept an even score for most part, and an under par here, and I think that's going to work well for her. So a birdie in the bag is worth a lot in your score. You definitely don't want to get lost in the bush here, so I couldn't use that phrase. Was just, of course, earlier, just putting it in a light manner, talking about caddies and how they can be your right arm in the game. But actually, they're pretty much everything. That it's like a part of you, isn't it? A caddy is like a part of you when you are on the course. It's if you're a musician and you're a guitar player, or you're a bass player, you will know that your roadie happens to be your best friend when you're out there performing. And when you're competing in an event like this for a golfer, of course, the caddy always your best bud, your advisor, consoler, mentor, name it what you want for that day. But how important is it? You're always on hand to choose the right club for you. And just a tad bit closer would have done it for her. I don't think she's going to blink too much on this, but well, she did get fairly close to finishing the job here. Here's Lim Hee Jong on her second stroke. She's powered that fairly well. And I did say this earlier, she's one of the athletes who's actually, well, been enjoying her game here today. She's been in a very chirpy mood, not taking anything away from the other golfers. I mean, most of them have been in an exceptionally good mood. Having said that, it's over to Lisa Young now. 14th hole, she's on to her third stroke. The par set at 5, and it's going to be interesting. 77 meters to the hole. She's definitely going to get a rethink about that effort, but here to just finish what she started for the 12th hole. Here's Park Hyun Kyung. That's another birdie for her. Well, had set herself up for this extremely well. Park Hyun Kyung. Very much in control from the start of, well, this hole itself. Here's Hwang Junmi. It's the 13th hole for her. 148 meters to the hole, onto a second stroke. The par set at 4. I think a tad bit closer. I would believe she should be fairly satisfied with that effort of hers. And well, it's Liu Hei. We're just gauging the situation as she gets ready to further her cause here. Been in exceptional form over the last couple of years. The par set at 5 for the 12th hole. She's on her third stroke. But did need to drive that fairly well. Well, she's been able to keep an even score, but it's really about being able to pick up those birdies time and time again. Now, yes, Hwang Junmi, 7.1 meters to the hole, and just narrowly missing it. She'll be able to keep an even on this one, and I don't think that's going to worry her too much. Lim Hee Jong with a third, and well, just gets on to, it's a good effort from her, but gets onto the wrong side of the incline. I think she would have been just been hoping for a bit less momentum on that slope.
나이스.
So a few challenging times and a few thrilling times for some of our golfers here today. Just to remind you once again, in case you've been with us from the morning, then hey, thank you for that. But if you just joined us, we'll tell you a bit more. Stick with us. It's our Lee Young now, who's going in for, well, her 14th, and will be aiming for, well, the target and just narrowly missing it. Just skimmed the surface there. I did believe she could have, well, actually nailed it fairly easy. So Lisa Young, an overall of 4 under par. Don't think she's going to be too well caught up with that. And here we have it. Jo Yoon Hee still, of course, top of the pack here. It's been with a 9 under par. Sonia Bin's been there with a 6 under par. She's, of course, Sonia Bin is currently on the 9th hole. It's been a fabulous performance from her, and will be interesting to see, well, how she performs going ahead with this event. Let's once again remind you that this is the Dayouwinia, well, LPGA Dayouwinia MBN Ladies Open. Keep in mind the fact that we are coming at you live from the Dayu Montworth Country Club. It's a very, very interesting place to be in. Lee So Young, who's got a 4 under par. She's also been very, very consistent in today's event. So you've got a few strong performances here today, and then we, of course, will carry forward the scores onwards towards tomorrow. Let's also tell you a little bit about the prize money, because there's never going to be any contest that's not worth it without you actually finding out. So roughly this week we're looking at about $690,000 US. So do stay with us, don't go anywhere as the action continues right here at the Dayu Montworth Country Club. We are currently right in the midst of the LPGA Dayouwinia MBN Ladies Open. Interesting performances that we've looked at from Lisa Young and from Sonia Bin. They've been, well, fairly consistent, and they're actually building up their scores beautifully. So do stay with us to find out if they can come out on top today, or will it be, of course, the usual suspects. But for now, these two young ladies do have the spotlight on them. So the action continues. Don't go anywhere as we continue with our coverage of this very special event from this absolutely beautiful golf course. So always a cheer of joy for, well, one of the stars of the event. And she's been able to, well, just build up a consistency a little bit. You hear on. And I think that's put a smile on her face after all that time. She was just a tad bit concerned earlier about most of, well, her performance or her display in today's event. We're on to Chua Yon, who's on her 12th. The par set at 5. And that was narrowly close. But she's been getting there in bits and bobs, and she's been very consistent today as well. So Chua Yon, big smile for her. Just a quick view of the 13th hole and the layout. Talk about the voice caddy. Did you ever think about artificial intelligence being involved in golf? Well, there's so many aids today that can actually help you perfect your game. On to the 13th year for Chua Yon. And as she drives that, she's kept very good form in today's event. She's been very, very delightful in the performance. Does get a... Well, she's also gone ahead in leaps and bounds. And if you ask me, she's having a good day at the office. I was just talking about this young athlete and how she's actually just been doing enough to keep herself in the running, in the contest. She hasn't really done anything that's been, well, hazardous or detrimental to her, well, pursuit of the event winner's position. Now here's Yuhei. She's on to her 13th as well. She's got a 1. She's got a 1 under par. Yuhei. They're fairly pleased with her effort this time around. Would have said that's close enough to perfect for me, and I think she knows it. Got a spring and a step on this one, there's no doubt about it. I think one of the most important bits, of course, is, well, there's been a slight change as far as, well, the wind draft is concerned. Just a tad bit, not too much. And that's one of the things that implements like, voice caddies can do for you, or most importantly, some of the most watches actually designed to help you with your game. And believe you me, if you're a watch lover, or if you're a lover of anything that has to do with, the slightest bit of artificial intelligence or coaching, and it's really a boon to be born in today's day and age in that sense. It just leads to better perfection. Park Hyun Kyung, 13th hole, her third stroke. She aims for a birdie here. Just falling shy of it. We'll have to settle for an even par here. And I think that's not going to ruffle the feathers at all. And she's kept fairly strong here. Park Hyun Kyung. So just a view of our 15th hole, 121 meters. The par set at just 3, and remember, it's the distance, of course, that will always denote the number of strokes. So, well, the lesser sometimes can also mean the more the level of difficulty, and that's really Lee Go-young. She nailed the birdie there. Loop of joy for her, Lee Go-young. She's had 2 consecutive birdies in this latter half of the first round, and I think she'd be delighted with that. Here's Sung Go-yoon. She's got an overall of 2 under par. The par set at 4 for the 13th. 351 meters, the overall distance to be covered. Here's Chua Yeon, the second stroke, the par set at 4, 166 meters, well to the hole. Well, got herself into a fairly decent position. While you do aim for the evens and try and snare a birdie or an eagle every now and then, it really boils down to one key fact, and you just want to keep the bogeyman at bay. We're just getting a handle on her effort before she can So a second stroke, Lim Hee Jong, 150 meters to the hole. Settles under that 2-9 iron, and not the fanciest of efforts from her, but she's, as I said, she has really been consistent. She's enjoyed, well, her time on the course, and that's really what it boils down to. I think one of the best parts about any sport is, no matter how, well, technically perfect you can be, there's also those two bits that come in. One is, of course, style, and the other is about you yourself enjoying the day. 137 meters to the hole on a second stroke. Here's Ryu Hei-ran. Hasn't really been at her finest here today, but she can prove us wrong every now and then like that. She's always got that ability to get the ball into, well, just those right spots, set herself up for a birdie with almost every single effort that she gets, but it hasn't really been her best day. But having said that, it's only day one. Here's Lee So-young. Will aim for the birdie. Remember the par set at 3. And she will have to settle for an even here. She too has been very, very consistent with the performances. Still has an overall of 4 under par, so I don't think she's going to be too concerned as long as she can keep those evens coming in and well, just avoid getting into those positive numbers. To drive this one on the 14th hole, 510 meters, and that's a good distance. Par set at 5. Year Song Do-yoon has driven it fairly strong. If you ever have a question and you ever wonder why some players, of course, do play with long-sleeved t-shirts, or why do they normally have that, it's quite simple, isn't it? Well, it's all outdoors, and on a good day, the sun always smiles on you. Sometimes it smiles a bit too much. That really helps keep your skin in check. Avoid you getting tanned a bit too much, more importantly. The men aren't really concerned, but the ladies, of course, would definitely be very, very cautious about that. Now, yes, Cho Ah-yeon on her third stroke. Well, that's for the birdie. Might be a tad bit difficult. Just narrowly missing it. She'll have to settle for an even two, it looks like. But she's kept herself in good stead. She's been in very, very good spirit for the entire day so far. Well, since it's already up, and I don't mind mentioning it, the Mercedes EQ, absolutely love that 4 wheels. And I don't know if you've had a chance. I don't own one, and I don't think I'll be owning one really soon or any time in the future, but it's an absolutely marvelous set of 4 wheels. Very sleek looking. It's, well, if you're a car enthusiast, you would know. And well, we're looking at that big prize money. Well, someone's going to be sitting in those 4 wheels soon enough. She's kept herself, well, still running, fairly strong. Here's Songo-yoon. Well, needs to get out of the rough. She's only on a second stroke. Remember the par set at 5 for this. And she's hit the banks a couple of times, well, in today's event. Well, she's talking about positioning herself up for the birdie, and now she's done it time and time again. Here's Ryu Hee-ran, 4.5 meters. Almost does it for her, almost does it. She will have to settle for an even. I think the real worry for Ryu Hee-ran has been that she hasn't been able to pick up, well, those birdies as much as she would have liked to. She hasn't been able to nail an eagle here today, and she's done it so many times in the past. She's done it on this very course as well. Having said that, of course, let's not forget that it's Park Min-ji who won it in 2020 and 2019. Here's Choi Young. And talk about, well, just a tad bit of tough luck. So Choi Young, well, just faltering there on that effort, and she knows it. Will shake it off. Well, this young athlete definitely has. She's got style. She's fairly flamboyant on the course. She's done, well, she's been quite a delight to watch. And having said that, well, here's another athlete who's also been very delightful to watch. Just, well, body language means so much in golf, doesn't it? You can either have the poise and, of course, the skill set, and then you can also have that one little bit which means the ability to entertain with your skills. And you go back to the days of stars like Arnold Palmer, who were such showmen by themselves. Now Lim Hee-jung will settle for an even here. She's been fairly pleased with most of her performances. She's done fairly well to keep herself in the running, and this is exactly what I've meant. Well, just packing that smile on your face also keeps your morale up, and well, it's one of the absolutely wonderful things about this sport, isn't it? Just warming up for her effort. Songo-yoon, 89 meters to the hole. She's got to conquer that incline there. So she's got an overall of 2 under par. 510 meters was, well, the actual distance for hole 14, the par set at 5. And I think she'll be fairly pleased to get out of the rough there. She's still got 2 strokes left, and I think that's going to be interesting.
Okay, shot.
So Lim Hee-jung to reset that. Just a bit of concern for her. Yes, Hiran is on to her 14th. 510 meters is the asking. She goes into drive. Well, just over the bank, and I think she'll be fairly pleased with her effort. It's not going to be too much of a worry. But you don't want to get stuck on the wrong side of the incline, and that just puts you at a bit of a disadvantage with the actual view of the target. Now here's Cho Ayon onto the 14th as well. 510 meters, the asking, remember. Yu Hei-ran, well, not really setting the benchmark, but doing well with her effort. And I think Cho herself will await the final destination of that drive. So just in case you weren't acquainted with the course itself, keep in mind the fact that this 36-hole golf complex at Montworth Country Club, which is situated right here in Pochon. Now it's an area known for its mineral waters that spout from deep below the surface through the hot springs. But the original owner is said to have gone to really great lengths to reconstruct or to change what was called Sanjeong Lake Golf Club in the late 1980s. A 60-man dynamite squad, and I literally mean dynamite, spent weeks blasting the granite outcrops and shifting 25 million cubic yards of earth to cut and fill the landscape for the fairways. It was designed by Sang-hee Im and Desmond Moorhead, a lad that was well known for laying out golf courses in difficult terrain. And the main one where we are, the 18-hole north layout, consists of the Printemps and the Ete 9s, with the south course comprising the easier Oton and the Evert 9s. And the par 4th, 9th hole on the Ete circuit is considered the signature hole, and doglegging left to an island green that's accessed by a number of stone bridges. So it's a very, very interesting course. There's a lot of painstaking hard work that has gone into putting this together, and let's not forget the maintenance of it. So it's beautiful, the actual layout of it. If you I've had the opportunity to actually look at it through the eyes of a drone, and it's absolutely fantastic. Now, just with that tad bit of history, it's time to get back into the thick of the action. Let's also remind you that this is the LPGA Dayouwinia MBN Women's Golf Open. Here's Park Hyun Kyung onto a third stroke for the 14th hole, 87 meters to the hole. We'll try and set herself up for the birdie. Needed to get out of that sandbank, and that's what I mean by the stone bridges. Just got a good view of them. Absolutely delightful to watch. Very archaic, and I hate to say old school, I'd say very classic, because I probably belong to what the millennials would call old school as well. So classic, I think that's a better term, an absolutely better term. Well, absolutely marvelous effort there, and she'll be delighted with that. Just picking up the pieces. I think that's really been interesting for her. I think she's had her worries. So the stone bridges that I just mentioned, good view of them. Couldn't have asked for a better shot, and got to thank our cameraman for putting that together. Really given us a fantastic view of the place itself. I always believe that some of the finest men behind the lens will do sit on a golf course. I've seen them in action. It's all about their patience, the ability to catch some of those beautiful shots, especially when they give us shots of the entire scenario. Now you're onto a second stroke at Cho Ayon, and that's for the 14th hole. Just looking at well, 227 meters plus about 5.2 meters to the hole.
아무것도 표시가 없어.
표시가 없으면 이게 있는 공장이 뭐 어떻게 있어? 자체가.
I think that's always going to be one of the key things to remember when you've got to, well, number one, find your ball. Number two, try and get yourself out of the thicket or out of the depths. Now here's Lim Hee Jong on her second. Sung Woo-yeon, will she be able to nail the birdie here on her 14th? I would have just said an absolutely marvelous effort. She came so close to it. We'll have to settle for an even, but I don't think that's really going to be too detrimental to her performance, and she does get a cheer. Sung Woo-yeon doing fairly well. Well, I do remember getting yourself into, well, the hazardous spots, getting yourself especially into the brush. I would rather think, and well, the search for Red October, as you'd call it, and I think this really is, it's just a tad bit of a worry here when you get into these spots. For me, of course, it was always really the water hazards that I used to totally despise. I'm not the fanciest as it, not a great lover of water either, so and as far as, well, water-based surfaces are concerned, I'm not talking about the beverage. And we move over to Lee Go-young, close to nailing a birdie here on the 14th. Will she be able to keep her composure? And almost a perfect putt there, just sailed over. Of momentum in that for her, but she'll try and keep an even. And she has, so she's still got an overall of 2 under par. Does get a cheer there from the crowd itself. And just a view of the 14th hole. And that's where you have, well, a good amount of foliage. And just a word there from the official.
나갈 수 있어?
나갈 수 있지. 천천히 하면.
Do remember the time set normally is about 5 minutes for you to find your ball, and then it goes to take the shot. It's never going to be easy. She's got a cheer from the crowd. She's got herself out of the thicket. Well, I think well, more power there to her. Well, just had a tad bit of a few worries here. Well, the penalty does set in. Don't forget, normally when you are stuck in tight spots like that. So on to a second for the 14th hole. Here's Ryu Hiran. She's got a total of 208 meters to cover plus about 3.2 meters for the hole. And I was just about saying more power to her for being able to get out of the thrush, and and more importantly, to be able to get out of, well, a tight spot. Did have a good cheer from the crowd. Had a few words with the official as well, and it's really freedom to get out of that situation, isn't it? And she's just about managed that after all that trouble. So she's got a bogey on that one, but I don't think she'll be too concerned, keeping, in fact, well, one key element in that is that, well, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a double bogey, so not too much of worries here for her, but I think she's going to just about rethink that moving ahead with the round. Now here we are on the 16th for Lee So Young. She will aim for the birdie. She's got an overall of 4 under par. Well, fairly close enough, and looks like she just might have to settle for an even. Here's Chua Yeon on her third. That's back to Ryu Hye-ran, who's still the top-ranked golfer. And she's just, well, ahead of Park Min-ji in the rankings, but Park Min-ji very dominant on this course. Third stroke for Choi Yoon-woo on her 16th. Oh, absolutely marvelous effort. Absolutely marvelous effort from her. So it's a birdie for her. Had an even on the previous, and I think she's, well, fairly delighted with that. Here's Lim Hee-jung on a third stroke. 14th hole is what we're looking at. Remember, par set at 5, and every time you hear a sigh, you pretty much know where that's going. Well, you don't want to hit the foliage too often. Aiming for the birdie, Kim Min-joo, she's on the 16th, and she's nailed another one here. So a birdie for Kim Min-joo. She had a bogey, a double bogey on the previous one, so she finishes off this round. And Lee So Young, well, settling for an even too. been a strong performer here today. She's got, well, 4 under par overall. And not really stuck in too tight a spot. I think she's going to be fairly well pleased that she stayed clear of, well, the foliage. Here's Lim Hee-jong. Oh, that is an absolutely phenomenal effort. Absolutely phenomenal. And was just talking about her. She's been having such a good day at the office. A birdie from her, straight out from a tight situation. And excellent performance for Lim on the 14th hole. And that's really a replay that is totally worth its weight in gold. Absolutely beautiful. And that smile, I think, says it all. Well, it doesn't happen too often. Just got to look back at that. One of the most magical parts about a sport itself, or even maybe in business trading, is when you can turn a disadvantage into an advantage. And I think that's just one of those moments shown to us by young Lim. Attempting the birdie here, Choa Yon. She's in a good position to do it on the 14th. And yes, she's just about managed to. She'll claim the birdie. She did have, well, worry there with the bogey on the previous when she got into the thick, but here on the 14th, well, another comeback from her. She claims the birdie, and that's going to just even things out for her a little bit. Here's Ryu Hee-ran. We're just getting a view of, well, the distance, and more importantly, the incline. There's always going to be a little bit, and that's where you judge, well, just the amount of power that it's needed, or the nudge. You don't want to push too hard on that putt, and all the best golfers will always, will take their time. The closer it gets, well, I think the more time would they take before they decide to find, well, the hole. So here it is, aiming for the birdie, Ryu Hee-ran. And I think she's going to be pleased with that. That just kind of upgrades her score a tad bit. And she's now got a 2 under par. Well, she's had a very challenging day, and I think she's just going to be pleased with that. Here's Lee So-young as she, well, will get behind that 6 iron, 145 meters. The par set at 3 for the 17th hole. Well, as I've always said, it's the ones that are the closest in terms of distance that can be the trickiest. And if you're aiming for a birdie, you want to push yourself as close to it as possible. She might have to settle in for an even year level of difficulty. Not too much, I'd say, but it's still going to be trying enough. Here's Bakun Kyung on her second. Just missing out on the birdie. And we'll settle for an even. So Bakun Kyung will not do too badly on that hole. Here's Song Go Yoon on his second stroke on the 15th hole. Just that right amount of push and stops just shy of that. Would have loved to have seen that just carry itself a bit more, and she'd settle for an even two. She's still got an overall of 2 under par.
진짜? 내가 근데 진짜 고
Just a quick look there at that leaderboard, and of course very clearly the contest is on here right now between, well, the ladies that we've been focusing on. You've got Ryu Hye Ran, you've also got So Yi Bin, who's been really phenomenal, and Son Yi Bin, who's been really phenomenal in her performances. She's got a 5 under par. Now that pretty much tells us the story. So as we get a handle of the current standings, keep in mind the fact that all those positive scores are never going to work too well for us. So on to the 15th here for Lim Hee Jung, and that's her first. She drives that fairly close. Well, I have said this before. She's been, well, very good in today's event. Now here's Lee So Young. Well, close enough. We'll have to settle for an even here. She's got an overall of 4 under par, and I'm sure she would have been trying to better that, but does settle in for an even, and she's not going to be too, well, perturbed about that. So just to have a quick look at it. Well, it's over now for another drive, and here's Choa Yon onto her 15th. 121 meters, the asking. Well, not as close as she would have liked it, but I think she'll just settle for that. She too has had a fair bit of challenges here today, but she's been able to come back strong. Now Song Go Yoon, 115 meters. Just a view of the wind draft that's in. .48 degrees westward. That's what we were looking at. You hear run. And we'll settle for an even. Here's Lee Go Young onto her second. This is the 16th hole, 104 meters to the hole. An absolutely marvelous effort from her. She set herself up well there for the birdie. Will she be able to, well, finish it? And I think that's going to be important. Here's Choa Yon. 12.4 meters. And just close enough, but not too close. But I do love her performance as well. Choa Yon, she's been in very, very good spirit. She's a flamboyant golfer. Does pack in the style element as well. Here's Lee So Young on her second, 358 meters, the entire asking, but this time needs to get herself off the rough. The par set at 4. And just manages to steer clear of hitting the rough again. I think that's going to work for her. Here's Lim Hee Jung. Will attempt to finish it with a birdie, and that'll definitely better her score. She's got a 3 under par overall on the 15th hole. Just a narrow miss there, but she'll settle for an even. So So Lim Hee-jung finishing her 15th hole. And it's over to Sung Gu-yoon. Tad bit of a distance there for her to nail a birdie. She's on to her 16th hole. And she'll have to settle for an even as well. And just about nailing that to perfection. She's not going to be too worried as long as she's kept herself consistent, stayed out of those positive numbers as much as she can. I think Sung Gu-yoon, well, not pleased as much, but pleased enough. So just to look at, well, that leaderboard. Lee So-mi, who's been so fantastic, picked up the title last year and the prize money as well. Time to get started with the next challenge for young Lim Hee-jung. And for the 16th, 17 birdies and all. A bit of a whip in that. Lim Hee-jung, really one of the, well, younger stars. She's just 20, top 75 in the Rolex rankings, and top 5 on the LPGA of Korea Tour money list. All three of her victories, well, did come in a rookie season on the LPGA of Korea Tour in 2019. Finished second in the Rookie of the Year chase to Ayan Cho. She's really an excellent athlete in her own right. And Ryu Hye-ran, well, she's just getting herself back together, keeping, well, her spirit up as well. That's so neat. Stand for Chua Yeon to drive that for the 16th. We'll get started. 339 meters the asking. She's got, well, a fairly decent overall score of 2 under par. Yes, Park Hyun-kyung. Oh, marvelous work. Absolutely marvelous work, and she'll get a whoop of joy for that. So a birdie for her as well, Park Hyun-kyung. Well done. She had her trials as well in today's event, but she's managed to, well, just not crawl back, but get back into the event soon as ever. Here's Son Yibin on her 14th. 82 meters to the hole on the third stroke. So she was doing exceptionally well for most part of this day. Just dropped a little bit, had a double bogey on the previous one, and that I think was just a tad bit on the 12th hole. That was really her undoing for that part. But she had a 6 under par while getting into the latter half of the first round. And well done here. Big cheer here as she nails another birdie. Lee Go Young. So a change, as we can see, in the event by itself. Lee So Mi still in that third spot. Jo Yun Hai in number 1. You've got Lee So Young, who's kept herself in good stead with her 4 under par. An overall score 4 under par. Well, after 17 holes, well, it's kept her in very, very good stead for the contest. Lee So Young. So once again, a reminder that just in case you have joined us late, then hey, welcome to this beautiful golf course. If you've been with us from the early hours of the morning, then thank you for being with us. We appreciate the company. This, of course, is the KL PGA Dayouwinia MBN Ladies Open 2022, and it really has been a very interesting contest so far. So as we get through the latter part of the day, and as we finish off with round 1, one of the interesting elements to keep in mind is the fact that you've got a few front runners in here. Lee So Young, of course, challenging the top spot along with Choi Yi-run. You've also got some stellar performances coming in from Lim Hee Jong, who's been delightful to watch in today's contest. And Lim Hee Jong has got a 3 under par overall. Son Yibin, well, just dropping down the table now to a 3 under par. She was at 6 under par after her first 9 holes. So, well, there's always shifts and changes, and the turning of the tide in with every single round of golf, or I'd say with every single half a round, or with the first 9 holes. There's still a decent bit of light left. Well, just a bit of dimming, as we can see. And I think it's going to be interesting to figure out what exactly will be the outcome in the next hour or so, and where do we go from here. So, as I said, daylight still very much contributing towards some more really good displays of skill and accuracy that we're going to see. While we run you through the current standings, let's not forget the prize money that is at stake for this event. I think Lee So Mi would have been very keen to back up her win last year with another one in her sophomore effort. Now keep in mind the fact that this week's kitty or bag is currently going to be roughly around 690,000 US dollars. Remember, Park Min-ji is one of the favorites to win it. She's a very, very gutsy and a very, very feisty performer. She did, of course, win the event in 2020 and in 2019 as well. And 2020 was such a challenging year, so it's quite a landmark event to have won it in that year. Past winners, of course, also include current world number 12 Kim Se-young, world number 24 Choi Hai-jin, who we've got a good view of today, and Park Min-ji, who's currently world number 18. But in the Korean rankings, we do have Park Min-ji at number 2, and right at the top of the list is Ryu Hae-ran with 457 points in the KLPGA. Well, she's done fairly well to get herself decently close, and I do love the fact that she's always got poised. She's always got a bit of style to get into the event, and that does make her a delight to watch, along with the skill sets, doesn't it? So Lee So-young, who's been very, very prolific in her efforts, aiming for the birdie and just narrowly missing it. She'll probably have to settle here for an even, but she's got close every now and then, and she's got close in a very, very strong manner. So just a view of the 16th hole. The par set at 339 meters is what we're looking at. It's got a good level of difficulty, and it's really those inclines that you've got to be very, very careful of. You can't even scale them. It's just about being able to navigate through them. Well, nothing like a ballad straight out of K-pop for the 16th hole. Absolutely love that song. Don't know if you're a fan of the music, but it's always delightful. Sets a bit of an epic tone to it, doesn't it? Yes, Ryu Hae-ran onto a second stroke on a 16th, 110 meters to the hole. Well, just a tad bit off the rough. I don't think she's going to be too happy with that, but well, it might just keep her onto an even score, and I think that's just a few bits to rethink now. Years young Lim Hee-jung back again. 339 meters the asking, 166 meters to the hole in her second stroke. And she's been able to actually not come out with anything stellar except for that one which she really got out of the thick, but she's been consistent, and I think that's so important. Just keeping yourself, playing tag with some of the top performers. Now here's Son Ye-bin. She'll be very eager to get that form from the early part of the day back in. Will miss out on the birdie, but might just settle for an even here. Had a very, very good start to the day, and was very impressed with her. But then that's the challenges that you're always going to find on a course. Now here's, well, a decent enough even finish for Lee. So Lee So-young, well, doing just about enough to keep herself still well in the competition. And the final championships, we're looking at, well, the prize money. You're also looking at one key element, and that has to do with who's going to take the top spot here. We've got 3 days to run through. Today, of course, on day one, we have had a very, very interesting, well, change as far as the positions are concerned on the leader table. Dayouwinia will attempt that even, and she does manage to finish it, just to keep that 3 under par score well going for her. Now she'll have to navigate that incline, get out of the rough. Here's Cho Ayon on her third. The par setter, of course, 4. Just needed to do enough to get herself out of the thick rope. Might actually be able to settle for an even, so she's not going to be too concerned about that. A view of the 17th hole, 145 meters, and that's one of the trickiest ones with the water hazard in place. The par setter 3. And I do love those graphics. I don't know if you're a fan of it, but I absolutely love it. Straight off the voice caddy and onto that. I do remember the earliest watches that have come out as instruments to help you as a golfer. Now here's Lee Go-young onto her 17th. Oh, driven exceptionally well. It's a bit of cheer for her. Ryu Run will attempt the birdie here. That's on a 16th. Just skims past it and will probably settle for an even too. She gets set for her 15th. Here's An Song Yi. Well, absolutely delightful effort from her. Absolutely delightful. Set herself up into a very good position for a birdie. Now here's Lim Hee Jung on her third. Well, just off the rim there. Would have been a birdie for her. She's come so close to doing that time and time again. We'll settle for an even here. And on her 16th, she still overall got a 3 under par score. Well, just as I mentioned, she's one of the younger contestants and really a delight to watch. Now here we go. Cho Ayon will attempt to keep an even. That's her 16th hole as well. And she's done just about enough. Sigh of relief there for her. So Cho Ayon, well, delighted with that effort. Here's Lee Sang-yeon aiming for the birdie on her 16th. And she's done well. Sorry, I do stand corrected. That was on her 18th, not her 16th. So she's, well, got a 1 under par score. Just a view of our leaderboard. Well, I don't know if you can pick that up, the sound of crickets, or I would think cicadas. I always think they are very, very interesting to hear. Especially when you're walking through a forest or through a thicket, it's always music to the ears. And well, having said that, talking about technology, and you have things like voice carriers, and you have, watches that can actually tell you, how the wind's going to work and how the draft's going to be, which way is it headed. Besides all that, you also got other bits and bobs of technology that have been really delightful, and well, some of them have been so interesting. If you're a lover of nature, they have now a device that can actually tell you the music that each plant makes. So you just have to use these two little devices that stick onto the plant leaves, and it actually siphons out the waves according to the flow of water inside the plant, and each plant has a different sound to it. Like an oak tree has a very classical kind of sound. If you attach it to probably an ivy, that's got a bit more of a sound prone to be rockish, or almost like alternative rock. And if you do stick it to a plant that is already dead, of course you will get no music because there's no flow of water. So this device does convert the flow of water into sound waves and gives you musical notes. How interesting is that? To think that to think that Isaac Asimov once wrote about all this way back in the 60s and the 70s. I would never have thought that you'd live to see the day. Or if you're a Trekkie like me, and you believed in those little devices called communicators, you have the mobile phone that can do about 50 things more than a good old communicator could for a Trekkie, and I mean a Star Trek fan by itself. And so that's the joy of golf as well. There are so many implements, so many instruments and tools that you can use to perfect your game, and that's what makes it so interesting. Park Hyun-kyung is going to go in for her second stroke, and well, that encouragement from the crowd, I think, would have just got it to go a little bit more. Just travel that distance, you would think. She's kept her wits together. She certainly has. After a few moments, we'll have to settle for an even score here on this hole. There's no doubt about it. And I absolutely love her t-shirt. Reminds me of the pearly gates. It certainly does. Song Go-yoon on her second. This is the 17th hole for her. Will miss out on the birdie, but might just settle in for an even score. And I think that's going to be fairly, well, fair enough for her. I think she'll take that.
나 기본 스트는 기본 들어오는 거. 맞아.
Yes, Son Yubin gets that. Well, not too close. Will miss out on the birdie for this hole. Marvelous effort. Absolutely marvelous effort from Lee Go-young as she nails another birdie, and this time on her 17th, so that's two consecutive ones for her. Had a tad bit of a worry with a bogey on the 14th, but I think she's had a strong comeback. Here's Son Ye-bin. Will aim for par. And just narrowly missing out on that, and she's going to be disappointed with that effort. So a bogey for her on this one, and well, she's just had a few worries getting into this. A double bogey on the 12th, she had a bogey on the 15th, and of course one on the 10th as well. So that's not really gone her way, and that's got her to lose her point standing. I think that's been a tad bit of a worry for Son Ye-bin. Here's An Sung-hee, 15th hole. That's her second. She aims for a birdie. And well done there. She'll upgrade her score now to an 3 under par. She'll be pleased with that effort. Here's Lim Hee-jung. She gets into position for her 17th hole. And just gets on the edge into the rough. But she would have, she's definitely going to have a rethink, and she would have thought she could have done just a tad bit better, keeping in mind the fact that she's approaching that 18th hole soon enough.
그냥 옷 잡아도 입고 가도 될 것 같아.
Ryo Hee-ran, always near perfect with her drive. She does manage to really get that ball into a very good position, but it's just that finish afterwards that has troubled her a little bit today. Song Go-yoon now, 358 meters for the asking on the 18th. That was a good well, a rather hard sound of heavy metal. The 17th for Cho Ah-yeon. $145 meters, the asking. She drives that. Well, Cho Ah-yeon has been one of the golfers to watch out for. She came back from behind recently to win the second KLPGA title of the season, and that was at the Hoban Seoul Shinmun Women's Classic. So that was quite interesting, and that was only July. So she's in very, very good form, and it was a 3-day 54-hole event. She carded a 12 under par and 204 to win the title, 2 strokes ahead of Ha-min Song and Hwang Jung-mi, who tied for second, carding 10 under par, 206. So Cho, of course, has been one of the key ladies to watch in the year. She also had her first victory in nearly 3 years at the Kyochon Honey Ladies Open. It was a stellar performance from her, and I did mention this earlier. She's very much a style icon. She's got a very, very stylistic form of play, and does excel very much in the 54-hole events. So it will be interesting to see what she comes up with here today. Well, so close, isn't it? So very close for Lim Hee-jung. Like Cho Ah-yeon, also very delightful athlete to watch in action. Well, does finish the job, and at 3 under par. Consistently, she hasn't been able to upgrade her score, but she hasn't dropped as well. Now here's another attempt from Cho Ah-yeon. She's well on her second stroke. Will definitely have to settle for an even here. Does get a chirp. Well, close enough to perfect, you'd say, and this has really been a bit of a worry for Ryu Hye-ran. She's been consistent. She's been able to, well, get on par every time, but it's just about nailing those birdies, and that's been a cause of worry for her. She knows it herself as well. She's really got a fantastic drive, sets herself up into a very good position, but it's just about that final finish. Chua Yun here now for par, and she's kept well her composure. She's also got an overall of 2 under par. She was quite well pleased with that effort. Here's Seo Young Jun on the 15th. It's the first stroke for her, asking of 121 meters. And a view of the 18th hole, 358 meters. Save the best for last, you'd say. The par set at 4. And a message from me with that music, the Elvis Presley hit, A Little Less Conversation. Well, that's a song that should be played for every single commentator, if you ask me. So 358 meters, and the level of difficulty very, very strong for this one. There's a good amount of water hazard all around it that surrounds the area, and I think it's going to be a tad bit of a worry for some of the golfers really navigating their ball through troubled waters. I'd say would be quite a huge effort. Just getting herself together. Here's Lim Hee Jong. Well, I did mention it. She was one of the strong rookies, along with her Cho Ah-yeon, one of the strong contenders this year. She's got herself up in the rankings as well. She's been pulling in the prize money. And here's Lim Hee Jong with her first. The par set at 4. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how she can do in this contest. She's got to the latter part of the day, needs to upgrade herself. She's been consistent, she's kept that going fairly strong, and here's another very experienced and a very, very skilled golfer. Here's Ryu Hye-ran on to her 18th. 358 meters, we said. We did also mention how tricky this very challenging hole can be. The 18th hole, as we said, just kept herself in fairly good step. She's not going to worry too much. And when you need to get out of the sand, here's Sung Go-yoon, the third. Oh, that almost did it. That almost did it. We'll have to settle for an even, but that's a very, very good effort from Sung Go-yoon. So she's got herself into a fairly comfortable position to keep an even score. Cho Ah-yeon. On to the 18th for her. And she does hit the incline on the downward slope. Here's Park Hyun-kyung. Well, just placing that a tad bit too far, but might be able to nail an even. She's still got 1 stroke left. Been a battle of nerves here for Park Hyun-kyung today. But Seo Young-jun now on the 15th. It's a second stroke. Just missing out on a birdie. ever so close yet ever so far. We'll have to settle for an even. She's not going to be too happy with that. Well, she was so close to it. She did have a bogey as well on the 12th. That's one of the best things about a caddy, isn't it? You always have, well, a word of cheer or a word of encouragement, and that's so needed, especially when you are, well, in the thick of the contest. Here's Ligo Young. She's on to her 18th as well. Will attempt the birdie. It's a third stroke. Well, just pushing that a tad bit too far. Might have to settle for an even. Ligo Young. On Hyun on a second. Well, almost nailed it. Could have just, well, carded, well, a tad bit of a better score, but I don't think she's really going to be too worried. We'll have to settle for an even here on this hole. So over to Ligo Young on her 18th. And just missing out on settling for an even, so she'll have to, well, now we'll just make do with the bogey. So here's Park Hyun Krung on her 18th. Will attempt to settle for par, and she does. So 36. Well, as we see it, as she finishes the first round.
네, 가운데요. 가운데.
Here's Sang Yun on her 18th. Will attempt to settle for an even here to finish off the first round, and easy does it for her. She's got a 2 under par, and I think that's going to be interesting. On the 16th, Son Yee-bin, second stroke, 97 meters to the hole. And a fairly decent effort from her. Well, she's just been getting her form back again, and that's a good thing for Son Yee-bin. And while she does get ready for next year's Lee Go-young, well, a bogey on this one for her. Well, she'll just hold it in together. So a tad bit unfortunate for her. Would have liked to have finished with the highest standing, but she finishes the first round. And just a few greetings there to her rivals. Chua Yon, 141 meters to the hole on her 18th now. This is the second stroke. And she's got herself out of the rough and onto the sandbank. I did mention that this, of course, is one of the trickier finishes, the 18th. It's really safe for last. There's a good bit of water hazards around it, there's sandbanks, and there's also, well, the level of difficulty that can be a tad bit worrying. Now Lim Hee-jong will attempt to get past, well, her obstacles here. Just get a good view of the destination that she would like the ball to, well, cover. It's a second stroke, 18th hole, 134 meters that she's looking at. Well, gives it a nice little flick. Just managed to stay off the sand, and I think that's going to be good enough for her. She's still a tad bit away. And one thing I do love about Lim Hee-jong, I don't know whether it's the age factor, but she does enjoy every moment and every single stroke. She's always got a smile on her face, always in a cheery mood. And, well, it's always good to have people that smile around you, isn't it? And here's Ryu Hye-ran, definitely still one of the best, well, athletes in the sport, in the KLPGA. She's always got that first effort that is so very impressive, but it's just about being able to claim the birdie that's been her, well, I think, trial here today. She's just got a 2 under par, and not really the kind of gameplay that you used to see from her. It's 123 meters to the hole, a second stroke, and that's on the 18th hole. And just a view of where, well, the target is. Well, it's going to be challenging for each and every athlete here on this last bit of this last stretch. 9 under par for Jo Yoon-hee on 63 holes that we can see. Lee So-young with well, so the points so very important here. So Jo Yoon-hee with 9 under par, still very much in the top there. Lee So-mi is also, well, very much in the contest. Well, do stay with us, don't go anywhere. Let's remind you once again that this, of course, is an event that is coming at you live from, well, just not the outskirts, but just the border of Gyeonggi. This, of course, is the KLPGA Dayouwinia MBN Ladies Open. And it's been a very interesting one for us. I do love this course very much for its layout, and more important, we are coming at you live from the Montworth Country Club that's situated right here in Pocheon. It's to the north of Gyeonggi, and it's a beautiful place, absolutely beautiful place, great weather, lovely setting, and there's so much of work that's gone into this course. So don't go anywhere as the action continues here, and as we stay with you till the end of the day. There's still a few more rounds to go for some of our golfers, some of them of course having finished off their first round. There's still a few more holes to go for some of our golfers, so don't go anywhere, stay with us as we continue with our coverage of this event. And looking to get out of that sandy spot, here's Chua Yon. Chua Yon has got 26 meters to the hole on the third stroke. This is the 18th hole for her.
Yep.
Will attempt the birdie, of course, in her next, but it's going to be just a tad bit of a worry for her. And just giving you the layout of all the holes. The 16th hole here. Some of the golfers are still very much well in it. 339 meters the asking. Han Song Yi. And just managing to nail her birdie on the 16th. Well, she'll be delighted with that. Son Yibin will attempt the birdie here, and that'll be delightful for her. She's had so many challenges in this latter part of the day's event, so a birdie for her after a bogey on the previous one. So she's still got 2 holes more to go. And Ryu Hiran, well, it just goes about her entire routine in a very, very smooth manner. She's got herself, well, closer enough to that hole this time. That's a moment well captured. And those candid moments, some of those action shots, of course, always well so important to look back, and that's what used to make the pages of a golf magazine a long time back, but now can be seen all over the internet. And that's the beauty of well, once again, not just technology but communications increasing in the world becoming so much smaller. Here's Chua Yun just about missing out on that even right there on her last hole. She's had a very, very consistent performance here today, but will have to end her first round with a bogey. Here's Lim Hee Jong. Well, will attempt to finish with an even here. And she's done that. Well, absolutely delightful effort from young Lim Hee Jong as she finishes with not just a clean finish but also with a smile on her face, and I think that pretty much will mean a lot to her. She's got, well, she's kept herself in the running of the contest itself, and she's done fairly well. Chua Yun has well also been very consistent, but just getting herself into a bit of a knot here at the 18th hole, and she'll finish the round with a bogey. So always good spirit from her, and that's going to work well. She's got a smile as well. So the overall points, of course, will make a difference, and so Ryu Hei-ran finishes her event as well. She's got 71 there, and well, not her desired finish, but quick smiles and hugs all around. And a quick look at the highlights for the third hole. So the current standings as they are, of course, Joo Yun Hai leads with a 9 under par finish and 63 strokes, as we can see. Park Bo Kyun, coming in second. You've also got, a couple of others like Lim Hee Jeong, Hyo Do Bin, Kim Hee Ji, Jun Se Young, and Park Choi Yoon, who's sitting there with an 3 under par finish. So here we have it. The final scoreboard that we're looking at, and this pretty much is, of course, the end of the first day, and we do hope that you've enjoyed our coverage of it. Just to remind you once again that we were coming at you live right here from the Montworth Country Club, which is situated right here in Pocheon to the north of Gyeonggi. It's a beautiful place and really mountainous area. And we do hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the KLPGA Dayouwinia MBN Ladies Open. My name is Glenn Mascarenas, and I'll be back with you tomorrow to take you through day 2. Till then, you stay safe, and I'll see you when I see you.